turns the table for the billion-dollar dialysis industry. The shocking truth is that end-stage CKD patients on dialysis don't live any longer than those not doing it. Is dialysis just a big lie?
I can't figure out what's next.
Let's pause for a moment and really let that sink in. We're talking about spending 4 hours, 3 times a week, tied to a chair. And with what benefit? This is the very question Georgia, a 77-year-old retired social worker from New York, was wondering before talking to her new nephrologist. But this woman had already made her decision. Although her kidneys were failing, she didn't want to begin dialysis. Her reason? She has many relatives and friends with advanced kidney disease. She watched them travel to dialysis centers 3 times a week, month after month, to spend hours on the chair. They'd come home weak and tired and go to bed. She told the reporter, "It's a day until they feel back to normal, and then it's time to go back to dialysis again. I didn't want that life." What her nephrologist isn't going to tell her, however, is that there are detoxifiers that can greatly extend the number of years a CKD patient can have even without dialysis. This is what I want to focus on in this video. Today, I want to unveil these powerful alternatives that could redefine your journey with CKD. Catherine here. I'm a doctor in natural medicine and I have been helping and counseling CKD patients for more than a decade now. And the hard truth about CKD is that too many patients are only told they have CKD when there is nothing more they can do, when the only solution is dialysis. But today, I don't want to focus just on the bad news the newspapers are reporting. Today, I want to go in depth about the alternatives to dialysis, especially those that can also be used by stage 3 and 4 patients to delay kidney failure as much as possible. Before that, I must tell you immediately that I am not against dialysis. Some of the patients I talk to are, however, against it. But one of the things I recommend them, if they are in stage 5, is to at least consider dialysis. Yeah, I know this may sound strange coming from me, especially in the context of this new study that basically disproves that dialysis can prolong the life of a CKD stage 5 patient. But you see, dialysis still has reasons to exist. For many stage 5 patients, it still has its place and purpose. More about this in a moment. However, if you are here because you want to know what other options there are, don't worry, because this is exactly what I want to talk about today. In many studies literature, detoxifiers such as acacia fiber, for example, have been used in studies in patients who wish to avoid dialysis. End-stage CKD patients were able to have a decent quality of life without the need for dialysis thanks to these detoxifiers. Are detoxifiers a real alternative to dialysis? Let's find out. Let's take a look at what detoxifiers have been used in medical literature and with what results. Okay guys, a disclaimer here. Never stop dialysis if you are already doing it. And as I was saying, if you are at the point of needing dialysis but you have not started it yet, get informed very thoroughly before making any decision. So let's talk about detoxifiers. The first thing I want to mention is something called creatinine. It was studied on hemodialysis patients as a way to reduce creatinine and other uremic toxins while improving other key parameters. Creatinine is a polymer found in the exoskeleton of crustaceans. It is actually very powerful at lowering creatinine levels at the point that when it was tested on dialysis patients, it lowered creatinine pretty efficiently. But it also improved cholesterol and hemoglobin levels. This is very important because having too low hemoglobin, a marker for anemia, can have serious consequences. Now, chitosan, which is a common supplement, is usually marketed as a weight loss aid. It is supposed to bind to fat as well, but I wouldn't rely too much on it as a magic weight loss pill. It's actually more effective at binding to uremic toxins than fat, creatinine in particular. Chitosan is so powerful at reducing creatinine levels, it was actually used in some studies to lower creatinine levels in patients in all the stages. Yes, this is overall a pretty powerful detoxifier. But of course, the most known uremic binder, the most known detoxifier for kidney disease is acacia fiber. This supplement is extremely powerful and it was tested in several end-stage renal disease patients with no residual kidney function who weren't able to tolerate dialysis. Some patients were able to go on for 4 years without dialysis and without any uremic symptoms at all. Yes, this is pretty interesting. But while many CKD patients in stage 3 and 4 are already taking this supplement today as a way to delay dialysis, I really wish more studies were made about it. Especially after this new study was made to show how little dialysis actually helps. We absolutely need to work on finding alternative treatments. Actually, they are even more powerful detoxifiers than this. We will see in a moment. Before we get to them, the question many of you may have in mind is, how do I even know which one is going to work for me? Now, this is an important question. Finding the right detoxifier, the right dose for it, and the right method to take. It is not always easy. It largely depends on your medications and on the other issues CKD might have caused you. For example, I had this patient that kept asking me why I wasn't recommending them acacia fiber. It was for their mom actually. So they call me and they say, you always recommend acacia fiber in your videos. Can my mom take it? By the way, this is not a dialysis patient we are talking about. Replacing dialysis is not something a naturopath can do for you. This is about someone who wants to prevent end-stage renal failure. Anyway, what this person didn't know and that I had to explain is that since I was already recommending their mom to start 5 different supplements, for her anemia and for her phosphorus levels, also adding in acacia fiber was a little too much. I also didn't want the fiber to reduce the absorption of the iron supplements. That was my top priority. So yeah, maybe let's start with the most vital things. I told them, then we might think about acacia fiber. And this happened a few months ago. However, the good news is that their mom eventually started to improve, even without acacia fiber. As her hemoglobin went up, her kidney function went up as well. This is why the answer to the question, which detoxifier is going to work for me, is it depends on what else you are already taking. It depends on your stage of kidney disease. It also depends on what other issues we might have to take care of before starting the fiber supplementation. And guys, I know this may sound as confusing to navigate as an IKEA store where the exit keeps moving. But here's the thing, that's exactly why you need your healthcare team to put in some overtime for you. You deserve someone who's got your back, someone who can advocate for you, just like this amazing person is doing for their mom. And listen, if you don't have someone to advocate for you, or if you are sitting there right now burning with a fundamental question about detoxifiers, I've got your solution. Shoot me an email because I'm here to help. I've started offering remote one-on-one video naturopathic consultations, and let me tell you, I've already met some absolutely fantastic people from this very community. These are folks who are not only knowledgeable about their health but also determined to improve it. And now with my direct guidance, they're taking their health to the next level. And I've decided to free up even more time in the coming weeks so I can help more of you with my expertise. This is your chance to get the answers you need, personalized just for you. So if your goal is to protect your kidneys and you're tired of playing the guessing game, wondering what works and what doesn't, stop waiting. Send me an email to Catherine@newhopeforkidneypatients.com and let's talk. You also find a link in the description to contact me direct, because your health is too much important to leave to chance. Let's take control together. Your kidneys are worth it, and so are you. Let's make this happen. And let's get back on topic now, because today's video is all about a very important question. Is dialysis just a lie? We all know how incredibly expensive dialysis is, and not just in terms of money. Dialysis can take a huge toll on the quality of life of a patient, and it can take away a huge amount of time as well. It also does not really replace your kidneys, you know. Dialysis is good at removing certain toxins such as urea and creatinine, which of course are the main causes of the symptoms associated with stage 5 kidney disease. But on the other hand, it doesn't do a great job with, you know, excess fluids, extra phosphorus, and some larger waste molecules, including, for example, potassium. It also does nothing for the other functions the kidney performs. Yes, your kidneys are not just filters, they also activate vitamin D, which is essential for overall health. Dialysis can't perform this function. They also produce erythropoietin, which stimulates red blood cell production, crucial to prevent anemia. Dialysis patients often suffer from anemia because this function is impaired, and the kidneys also regulate the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, or RAS, which plays a crucial role in controlling blood pressure. Dialysis does not address this regulatory function. All these issues that your kidneys use to manage must now be taken care of with the use of medications, and they must be monitored by a professional figure, usually your nephrologist or your dialysis team. So basically, the picture here is that of a patient that spends a lot of time doing dialysis, even more time recovering from dialysis, and they still have many issues associated with kidney disease that require several medications and, of course, the intervention of a specialized doctor. So why do we even recommend dialysis to patients anymore? Well, because, of course, the main goal of us healthcare providers is, well, keeping the patient, you know, alive. I don't think any of my patients will be happy if I didn't even try to do that. So my usual recommendation when I see a patient with a GFR below 15 is to start at least considering the option of dialysis. But now in 2024, this new study comes out showing us that dialysis can only do so little for improving a patient's life expectancy. As we can see, and I quote, among 20,440 adults, mean age 77.9 years, the group starting dialysis survived 770 days, and the group continuing medical management survived 761 days. So just a tiny improvement in terms of life expectancy, just about a few days. But of course, even more days were spent doing dialysis by those who were doing it. Now guys, this is a very large trial, so it's clear we must pay attention to it. However, there is a group of people that should never skip dialysis. So question, who is always going to need dialysis? Well, younger folks and those who will be able to get a transplant. Now guys, it's important to keep in mind that this study was conducted on older patients, alright? They were on average around 78 years old. It's clear that their life expectancy depended on that as well. And also very important, none of the participants of the study was able to be put on a transplant list. So, if you are younger than 78 and you have a chance, so if you are younger than 78 and you have the chance of being on a transplant list, absolutely do dialysis. Avoiding dialysis if you have a chance to receive a kidney for transplant is not even up for discussion, alright? I want to be very clear on this. Don't miss your chance for a transplant because you don't want to do dialysis, because a new kidney will give you decades, not just years. So that's the first thing they didn't consider in the study we are looking at. It was only conducted on older patients, so if you are still young, those findings don't apply to you. Now, one more thing they didn't consider in this study is the use of detoxifiers. Since detoxifiers have been studied in some renal failure patients who needed to avoid dialysis, let's talk about this more in depth. we have already seen a couple of options, acacia fiber and chitosan, but those are not the only available detoxifiers. Actually, there is one very significant study that was conducted on 5 end-stage renal disease patients who weren't able to tolerate dialysis. In this study, appropriately titled the Dialysis-Free Protocol, researchers used a method that we can really consider outside the box thinking. They in fact used a combination of 3 different detoxifiers, each one aimed at specific renal toxins. First, they used a uremic toxin absorbent, which is a way to remove the most dangerous toxins. In this study, they use activated charcoal, which works in a similar way to acacia fiber, but activated charcoal, which is maybe even more powerful than acacia fiber, comes with a big issue. It removes a lot of stuff, and I really mean a lot of stuff. At the doses these patients were given, vitamin deficiencies and even malnutrition were a risk. In fact, they were continuously monitored by the team of researchers that conducted this study. Second thing they used was lactulose. Lactulose is an oral prebiotic, and it has a different mechanisms of action from activated charcoal, because otherwise these two wouldn't work when taken together. And you see, lactulose gets the toxins out of the gut, mostly by working as a laxative. This is important because in CKD patients, a lot more toxins will get from the intestine to the bloodstream if they are constipated, alright? Yeah, you gotta get stuff moving in order to get stuff outside the body. And the third part of the equation was, of course, a renal diet. Now guys, in my recent video, I went really in depth about this study. So if you want to learn more, watch my video up here. Gathering here, today we talk about the dialysis-free protocol. This is the fastest, best documented way in which end-stage CKD patients have actually cut their creatinine in half and avoided dialysis. Yes, it really happened. It's in the study. Okay, I know what you may be thinking. How on earth are these patients in stage 5 kidney disease improving their kidney function when your doc said that even CKD stage 3 is like playing poker with a pair of shoes? Well, here's the plot twist. Researchers are using a method that is a little bit more outside the box thinking, maybe even exotic compared to what most doctors do for CKD patients. Ah yeah, the old wait and see approach. And now the interesting part, you are going to be able to use many of their findings to actually improve. Because remember, it's all fun and games until someone's kidneys start working better. Speaking of which, don't miss the last entry of this video because that's where the biggest part of the results these end-stage patients got came from. You have been warned. Before that, let's check out the protocol that had end-stage CKD patients waving goodbye to their dialysis machines. This method was so insanely effective that researchers started calling it the dialysis-free protocol. Yes, you heard that right. This is the 3-step miracle plan that effectively helped patients ditch dialysis. And here's the kicker. The 3 parts of this protocol can be used by any kidney disease patient no matter what stage they're in to slow or even stop the progression of the disease. So what's the deal with this dialysis-free protocol and how does it work? Spoiler alert, it's all about uremic toxin absorbents. But what are uremic toxin absorbents and how do they stop the need for dialysis? Well, the super uremic toxin absorbent they use is actually a little black pill called AST-120, which is a modified version of activated charcoal. In a medical setting, activated charcoal is used in the emergency treatment of certain kinds of poisoning and intoxication. Activated charcoal is like the vacuum cleaner of the digestive tract. It sucks up everything from poisons to those double bacon cheeseburgers with a side of cholesterol you had for lunch. Yes, this detox dynamo binds to, well, pretty much everything in the intestine and kicks it all out through the stool. Now, this is both fantastic and a little bit of a problem. I mean, who doesn't love getting rid of toxins and cholesterol? But what happens when activated charcoal also decides to evict your medications, vitamins, and other essential nutrients? Oopsie daisy! Yeah, this is why it's not recommended to use this one on the long term. AST 120 was created exactly to solve this issue. The idea here was simply to give CKD patients a detoxifier that's extremely effective at binding to uremic toxins in the intestine while leaving the rest almost untouched. This works because uremic toxins are, stuff such as ammonia, urea, uric acid, and creatinine. And these toxins are the reason why, when kidney damage starts to happen, it's so hard to stop it. When these toxins start to accumulate, they will seriously amplify the damage to the kidneys. And this is what you need to know about AST 120. And if you have never heard about this medication, it's because we can't get it in Europe or the US. I mean, since it actually works, naturally, we can't get it here. Because why would we want to actually try and do something about CKD when we can just sit around and wait for our kidneys to throw in the towel, right? But on the other hand, if you live in one of those countries where this prescription is used, and with some success as well, such as Japan and some other Asian countries, ask your doctor for it. Now, luckily for us, even if AST 120 is as elusive as a cat at bath time, we've got other tricks to detoxify those toxins. So question, what can we use every day to get rid of uremic toxins? Well, there are certain supplements that CKD patients are supposed to take when they are dealing with excess toxins in their body. Yeah, even in the US and Europe. Now, these supplements are taken on a lab value basis, not on a wing and prayer basis, alright? I mean, I don't see no crystal balls here, right? In fact, as someone who is specialized in CKD, when a new patient comes in, one of the first things I do is check their latest blood work like a detective hunting for clues. But how do I tell if a patient needs a detoxifier? Well, the first clue is always the amount of acid in blood. But the way we know if a patient has too much acid in blood is not by looking at their pH or anything like that. No, we search for what's missing, which is serum bicarbonate, or as your blood analysis call it, CO2. If this level is too low, below 22 milliequivalents per liter, the patient needs sodium bicarbonate. Now, making sure CO2 is in the right range is of key importance in CKD patients, but many doctors simply forget to check that level, which is just like driving your car with the oil light on for a year and then being shocked when the engine doesn't start anymore. And I'm not even exaggerating. You see, having too much acid in the body is one of the fastest ways to end up in dialysis. This is especially common in CKD patients who still eat meat. Alright, so don't eat meat. Also because having too much acid in blood causes electrolyte imbalances such as having too much potassium in the blood. Hello, hyperkalemia.
Wait. What?
Oh, you thought eating bananas and potatoes was the potassium bad guy? Nope, eating meat is a way more likely cause of hyperkalemia, as we can clearly read. I mean, who knew? Yeah, the human body is more complicated than IKEA instructions, and we all know how fun those are. Now, when it comes to sodium bicarbonate, a good starting dose is 650 milligrams 3 times a day, but this dose needs to be adjusted depending on your labs, alright? Don't just chug it like a frat boy with a beer bong. Now, another toxin most CKD patients are supposed to be treated for is excessive phosphorus level, or as we in the biz call it, hyperphosphatemia. Because who doesn't love the sound of fancy medical terms? And this is even worse than excess acid because surprise, surprise! A lot of CKD patients aren't even being tested for this, which is Just like driving a car without a check engine light because the last mechanic yanked it out with a pair of pliers. Real safe, right? I mean, I don't know if my analogy quite captures the absurdity of not being tested for phosphorus levels, but it's a disaster waiting to happen. Seriously, if your doctor hasn't checked this, it's time to have a little chat. Never ever let your serum phosphorus soar above 4.6 milligrams per dl if you have CKD. Now here's the kicker about serum phosphorus. Most labs will mark a level of 5.0 milligrams per dl as in range. Spoiler alert, it's not. If you have CKD, your phosphorus level should be lower than the general populations. No more than 4.6 milligrams per dl, and I frankly would prefer it to be much lower than that. But how do we get there, you may ask? Well, with calcium carbonate as a phosphate binder. A good starting dose would be 1250 milligrams of calcium carbonate, 500 milligrams of elemental calcium 3 times a day before meals. Then you check the level again and you adjust the dose. Sounds like a chemistry class, right? That's why you talk to a specialist when you have kidney disease. Now guys, toxin binders are not the only component of the protocol that was given to these patients to avoid dialysis in stage 5. So, given that limiting the impact of uremic toxins is how you avoid dialysis, what else should we do to take care of uremic toxins, you may ask? Well, let's take a look at the next part of the protocol because that's going to help a lot. This is the second part of this protocol, and believe it or not, since reducing toxins is how you dodge dialysis, the second part of the dialysis-free protocol is also a detoxifier. This is called lactulose, which is an oral prebiotic, and it has a different mechanisms of action from AST 120, because otherwise these two wouldn't work when taken together. And you see, lactulose gets the toxins out of the gut in 3 ways. First, it works as a laxative. This is important because in CKD patients, a lot more toxins will get from the intestine to the bloodstream if they are constipated, alright? Yeah, you gotta get stuff moving in order to get stuff outside the body, right? Second, it works as a prebiotic and it's actually linked to increased amounts of healthy bacteria, especially bifidobacteria and lactobacilli in the gut. Do not underestimate this property. Science has already pointed out that these 2 genera of bacteria are able to reduce the amount of kidney toxins that are produced in the gut, so keep that in mind. Now, the third way lactulose works is by directly lowering creatinine levels. I mean, this is what we can expect from a detoxifier, right? But how effective is it when taken alone? Well, in a different study conducted on stage 4 and 5 CKD patients, those taking lactulose were able to see their creatinine levels literally drop. They started the 8-week treatment period with 3.90 milligrams per dl creatinine on average and ended up with just 3.6. To achieve this incredible result, patients took lactulose 30 milliliters or 20 grams 3 times per day for 8 weeks. And of course, researchers believe that this incredible result is due to the ability of lactulose to greatly improving the gut microbiome in those with CKD. And while it had amazing results, I don't really recommend taking a laxative. I mean, unless you're in desperate need of a porcelain marathon. There are, in fact, better ways we can improve the amount of bifidobacteria and lactobacilli in our gut, so that these bacteria can get rid of uremic toxins for us. Something I often recommend is psyllium husk. This is a form of soluble fiber made from the husks of the platango ovada plant's seeds. While some take this incredibly useful supplement to improve their regularity, overall gut health, and to fight both high cholesterol levels and diabetes, psyllium is also linked to a significant drop in creatinine levels in kidney patients. Test subjects had on average 2.44 milligrams per dl creatinine at the start of the study, but after taking 23 grams of fiber every day for just 4 weeks, their creatinine dropped to 2.21. This is very significant, especially because it was obtained just with dietary fiber. Now, if you want to try psyllium husk, which I recommend, remember that there are a couple of rules to follow. Always start small if you aren't taking fiber already, and don't take it the same time as prescriptions. The dose for psyllium is 5 to 10 grams 2-3 times a day. Taking it 15 to 30 minutes before meals is a great strategy to slow down sugar absorption and decrease cholesterol levels. Now guys, both taking detoxifiers and prebiotics can lead to significant lowering in creatinine levels, no doubt about it. But let's be real, these methods alone can't hold a candle to the jaw-dropping, almost 50% drop in creatinine levels observed in some patients on the dialysis-free protocol. Yeah, as I was saying, the biggest responsible for this incredible result was just one of the 3 parts of this protocol. So, what is the last piece of the puzzle? Let's read directly from the published paper. Low protein diet 0.6 to 0.8 grams per kilograms with high biologic value, supplemented with carbohydrates and polyunsaturated fat. And of course, it's a low protein diet. I mean, what else could be saving a CKD stage 5 patient from dialysis? Now let's talk about the low protein diet for a moment, because honestly, too many of you are not following it. Am I wrong? I sincerely hope I am. I hope you're all religiously weighing every bite of food and using an app to track the protein content. Or that, if you can't stand the idea that you'd need a calculator for dinner, that you are at least following a diet crafted by a professional. So please let me know in comment section if you are following a renal diet or not. Let's talk about it, because this is the most effective way of stopping CKD progression and start to improve. But is the renal diet really a must for someone with CKD, you may ask? Now guys, I really understand that switching from a regular old diet to a low-protein, plant-based diet is a lot easier said than done. Starting a completely new diet is a huge step. It comes with many hurdles. Yeah, I got it. Swapping your beloved burgers for broccoli isn't exactly a culinary dream. Starting a completely new diet is like trying to teach an old dog new tricks. Except the dog is you, and the trick is eating like a rabbit. But ask me if it's worth it. Guys, the renal diet may feel like playing Tetris with your meals, but it is the sine qua non of the treatment for kidney disease. It's extremely hard for a patient to improve without a low-protein plant-based diet, alright? In fact, the dialysis-free protocol we have seen today is all about reducing the amount of kidney toxins going around the body. And yeah, the remedies and prescription medications we have seen in this video can help reduce the amount of toxins, because they either bind to these toxins and prevent them from entering the bloodstream, or they increase the amount of good bacteria in the gut in order for these bacteria to literally eat these toxins. But for many patients, especially those in stage 4 or 5 pre-dialysis, removing uremic toxins through the gut is like trying to empty a flooded basement with a bucket. What's 100 times more effective? Not letting those toxins party in your body in the first place. Okay, look, do you remember that the use of detoxifiers is to remove toxins such as creatinine, urea, ammonia, and all the nasty stuff that damages the kidneys? And do you know where these toxins are coming from? Drum roll! It's protein! Yep! The protein you eat! When we eat protein, your body breaks it down into smaller parts called amino acids. As your body uses amino acids, it creates waste products. Think of it like burning fuel in a car. You get energy but also exhaust fumes. One of the most dangerous exhaust fumes protein generates is ammonia, which is incredibly toxic. I mean, have you ever noticed that many detergents have a warning on them that says that you can only use them in well-ventilated areas? Do you know why they have that warning? Because they contain ammonia. If you breathe that stuff, it can be very bad for your throat and lungs. Now imagine what ammonia can do to your kidneys when it is inside your body. Yeah, think about that. the next time someone invites you out for a steak dinner. And this is only part of the reason why limiting protein intake is one of the main reasons why we are now able to tell patients that dialysis can be delayed by years, if not decades. So, if you want to learn more about the low protein diet, this video up here is for you. And this is all for today. Thank you for watching. God bless you all. Bye!